as far as I know, maybe this has changed in the last few hours, after this election, the President has yet to call the Prime Minister. That is unlike, of course, the fact that in March of 2012, he was among the first to call and congratulate Putin in Moscow. Or that in June of 2012, he was among the first to call Morsi and the Muslim Brotherhood when they won the Egyptian presidency. Or that in November of 2012, they called to congratulate the top Chinese communists on their new position, which, by the way, is not elected in the way you and I would consider there to be an election.
Yeah. See a pattern there, folks. All right, joining us now is Ian Tuttle, William F. Buckley Fellow at National Review, member of the National Review Editorial Board, and he wrote a great piece, Marco Rubio delivers Withering Rebuke of Obama's treatment of Israel. Ian, there have been developments over the weekend and today. Today, 367 lawmakers wrote a letter to Obama. Now, I don't know if that's considered treason or not, but they wrote a letter to Obama saying any deal here has to go through the Congress. And explain to me how the Ayatollah of Iran leads a crowd in a chant of death to America on Sunday, and our Secretary of State is still going to sit down with this guy and work out a deal this week, and Obama has no problem with that. But when Netanyahu says the Arabs are voting, oh! I mean, it's almost like it's bad fiction.
Yeah, it is. Well, when it comes to these legislators sending a letter to the president, they're absolutely right in doing so. One of the important things in that development, we've been seeing it happen over the past 2 or 3 weeks or so, is that it's bipartisan. You had Tim Kaine, Virginia senator, several others who've come out and said, look, you need to put this deal before the Congress, and that's extremely important that we're getting that from both sides. I think even some Democrats are finally tired of being trampled on by this president's unilateral inclinations. But as far as the second aspect goes, the simple reality is that this president is desperate for this deal to go through. We saw this a month or two ago. There was a report that essentially the Iranians were holding the cards, that they were sort of calling the shots. In fact, a good example is we've seen this in Cuba, where the administration gave this enormous largesse to a one-party communist dictatorship. They've been trying to make that deal move along, and the Castros have said, well, we're not so sure. We want to. It's exactly the same thing in Iran. The president has basically prostrated himself in this entire negotiation process, and now the other side holds all the cards.
And when you hear the Ayatollah say this, I mean, spitting in the face of Barack Obama and the U.S., mocking Barack Obama and the U.S., while the negotiations are reaching a critical mass, what country has ever negotiated with the likes of Iran and have the leader of a country, while you're negotiating, say death to America? I mean, if we had any decency, any sense of pride, or any sense of common sense, wouldn't we pick up and walk the heck out?
All these things are tied together, though, as far as this is all part of the larger narrative of Islam is just a few bad apples here and there, that there's a hard line and a soft line in Iran, which is just nonsense. All of these larger worldview questions help us understand why the president can see an event like the one you described happen in Iran and say, this isn't actually representative. This whole worldview allows him to say that he knows better what is actually the case in Iran than whatever you're seeing on the news or whatever you're hearing.
Well, Ian, right? He knows. He's a Christian. He tells Muslims who claim that they're practicing Islam in their own way through violence, that's not Islam. He tells Netanyahu, what you're saying about busing Arabs or whatever, that's not in the tradition of Israel. And he's telling the Iranians, oh, that's not really, that's not really Iran, or that's not you. Or he's telling Americans, that's not really who the Iranians are. This guy knows more about everything than anybody on the face of the earth.
our lecturer in chief.
Lecturer in chief. Absolutely right. No, absolutely right. Very, very quickly, in the few seconds we have left, Israel going to be and this whole thing going to be a huge part of 2016?
Hopefully, it's an extremely important issue. Republicans are very good on this; they're very consistent, so it'll help them politically. But it's just enormously important that Republicans stand firm on this, stand united, because the prospect of an Iranian nuclear weapon is devastating.
Ian, always great to talk to you, sir. Thank you very, very much.
Steve.
And when we come back, folks, we're going to turn our attention to the email scandal, and you know who's involved in that. We'll be joined by a professor of law at Cornell Law School, William Jacobson's back. Don't go away.